Welcome to Wednesday night F412 Facebook Live edition. We have a few announcements before we begin tonight. First off, we won't be having WrestleMania or the Escape Room during the month of April due to the extended stay-at-home guidelines by our government. So, we won't be having that. We'll just take it day by day kind of thing. Second thing, we really, hi Mariah, hi Kaylee, we really want to know how you are doing. So if you need help with anything, whether that's getting some food, running some errands, whatever we can do to help, we want to help if we can. So if you need help, please let us know, and hey Zoe, hey Caitlin, we will help you. And finally, I would love it if you would post your favorite picture. It can be a picture of whatever, landscapes, horses, to something, artwork you've done, to anything in between. Just post your favorite picture, tag me in the comments, say, hey Mark, this is my favorite picture, because we want to share some love, spread some positive feelings in this crazy dark time, and so I'm encouraging you to post your favorite picture. Alright, I'm going to start off with a story, but before I do, I want to put a little disclaimer, because this story is a little graphic and it's from my personal experience as an EMT. So if you want to skip ahead in a few minutes and come back or whatever, that's totally fine. I was doing a clinical for EMT school in Fishers, Indiana at a fire station. I was working from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and we had gotten the call around 6:30 that night. It was an MVI, or motor vehicle incident, or aka a crash. We hopped in the ambulance, flew to the scene as fast as we could get there, and upon arrival we see this mangled car, and it is beyond recognition mangled. Like, I know cars, and I can tell you the make and model of most cars, and I couldn't tell you what kind of car this was. It was how bad, how destroyed this car was. The driver was a 16-year-old female. The passenger was a 17-year-old male. I found out later that they were going in speeds in excess of 125 miles per hour, and she had veered off the road, overcorrected, and the vehicle flipped and rolled about 150 to 200 feet and finally landed inverted or upside down. There were pieces of the car everywhere, and even in the field across the street. It was bad. By the time we got there, the firemen were already working. Hey Gene. And they had gotten her out of the car, the driver, and I was the one to do CPR. I will never forget her face as long as I live. Her face was about the size of a basketball. It was a deep blue, and she had blood coming out of her eyes, ears, nose, and mouth. It was a very bad day. And by the time they'd gotten her out, there was probably another 3 or 4 ambulances, 4 fire trucks, and about 6 police cars, all taking up, 400, 500 feet on this 2-lane road. And they all were working to get the 17-year-old male out of the vehicle. They had to use sandbags, they had to use the jaws of life, and they had to do all sorts of crazy stuff to get him out safely. And despite all their effort, it still took them about 40 minutes to get him out safely. And by the time they got him out, a helicopter had landed in the field across the street, and they wheeled him out and put him right in the helicopter and flew off and airlifted him to the hospital. The 16-year-old female was pronounced dead at the scene, and that day, with me being there with all these other first responders, literally stood at the front lines of between life and death. Tonight we're going to be looking at the book of Numbers. We're looking at Numbers 16, and this is dealing with Moses and Aaron and the Israelites. So just to set this up, right before this in chapter 15, we find three guys named Korah, Dathan, and Abram who had just tried to overthrow Moses and Aaron. They had about 250 followers, and long story short, God stepped in and said, nope, I'm going with Aaron and Moses, not you guys. And literally the scripture records the ground opened up and swallowed them, their families, their tents, all the possessions, and just gone. And so the Israelites see this, and the very next day they're grumbling because they think that Moses and Aaron killed God's people. So this is where we pick up in Numbers 16, 41 to 48. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a scripture, a verse at a time, a verse or two at a time, read it, unpack it, and go from there. Okay? So this is Numbers 16, 41 to 48. Verse 41. The next day, the whole Israelite community grumbled against Moses and Aaron. You have killed the Lord's people, they said. So all this, imagine this large mass group of people just angrily blasting Moses, unfairly charging him, you killed them, you did. You know, the whole finger pointing thing. Verse 42. But when the assembly gathered in opposition to Moses and Aaron and turned toward the tent of meeting, suddenly the cloud covered it, and the glory of the Lord appeared. Then Moses and Aaron went into the front of the tent of meeting. So this is huge. This frenzied mob crowd, just angry and mad, starts pressing towards them and going towards the tent of meeting. And then all of a sudden, God shows up. I just imagine like this bright flash of light or something, and everyone's like, what is that? Where Moses and Aaron are like, oh, look at that. God showed up. Let's go see what he wants. And when this light shows up, this is not happy, like, oh, yay, God showed up, he's going to lead us. No, this is something bad's going on. There was a difference. They could tell. But here's the thing. Moses and Aaron, they weren't afraid. They were where they belong. They were in the presence of the Lord. And so they boldly walk up to the tent of meeting. Verse 44, and the Lord said to Moses, get away from this assembly so I can put an end to them at once. And they fell face down. Moses and Aaron fell face down. You see, the Lord is about to destroy the nation. Moses and Aaron, under extreme personal assault, bow down and seek mercy to turn away his wrath. So Moses and Aaron are literally in between God and his wrath and thousands upon thousands of people. Verse 46, then Moses said to Aaron, take your censer and put incense in it along with the fire of the altar, and hurry to the assembly and make atonement for them. The wrath of God has come out from the Lord. The plague has started. So Moses tells Aaron to take a censer, this little golden or brass bowl that has incense on it. It's literally like a small, tiny fire pot, if you will. And he's like, hey, take this, go do what you do. You're the priest, you atone for sins, go do what you do. And you know, you think of it, Aaron and Moses could have just been like, yep, we're out. Okay, God, you do your thing. I'm going to stay right here. But no, they didn't. And it's crazy to think that they could have just done that, but they didn't, because he calls them back. So verse 47. So Aaron did as Moses said. He ran in the midst of the assembly. The plague had already started among the people, but Aaron offered the incense and made atonement for them as the high priest. That is his job, to make atonement for the people, for the sins of the people. So Moses tells his brother to hurry. So you have two old guys trying to protect the people who moments earlier were shouting their hatred and rage at them, of wanting to get back at them, and yet these two old guys 2 seconds later are doing everything they can to try to save them. And in verse 48 it says, he stood between the living and the dead, and the plague stopped. So Aaron ran. This old priest runs, trying to save and to heal. He stands in the breach between the living and the dead, and he stops the plague. So I'm inviting you tonight to stand with me between life and death this evening. Say, how, Mark? I'm not a high priest like Aaron or an EMT. How am I supposed to do that? You see, at this crazy moment in history, we can all stand between life and death. Yesterday, the president urged us Americans to heed his government guidelines for responding to the coronavirus pandemic, calling it a matter of life and death. We all currently have some ways we can do that. 1, share a smile. This is unprecedented dark times. A smile, a laugh, a joke, a funny message, whatever will go a long, long way. We need to laugh. We need to smile. We need that positive influence. And you can be that. Coronavirus or no coronavirus, you can be an uplifting part of somebody's day. 2, kind of common sense, but social distancing. You know, that means giving everybody some space, like a lot of space, like 6 feet of space. You know, my arms aren't 6 feet, but you kind of get the idea, where you can just be like, away, you know, and you can just pretend like everyone has cooties, and then you don't want to touch them, and that'll work. Be like, ew, no, cooties, nope. Second thing, stay at home. I know this is what you've heard all this time, but don't go out unless you absolutely have to. You don't have to be the one. Yeah, you know what? Maybe you're healthy. Maybe if you get it, you'll be fine. But what if you pass it to somebody else who doesn't? We don't want to do that. So if you can at all, please stay at home. You can go for walks. You can get out and breathe some fresh air. But use your common sense. Use your head. Don't go out unless you absolutely have to. Third thing, and final thing, prayer. Now, I know I sound like a broken record, but we need to turn this all over to God and be like, here. We as Christians have the unique privilege to take things to the throne room of God through prayer. We can pray for all those who have the coronavirus to recover, pray for a cure, pray for those who have lost loved ones, pray for those who have lost jobs, their very livelihood, because they're shut down and cannot go to work. Pray for those who are hurting to stop. Pray for healing to begin. What would it look like if we as a youth group took time every day to pray? These things can save lives. These things can make a difference. You can help. We can help. So my final question for you tonight is, will you stand with me between life and death?